Hello future doctors, welcome to Dipenism. I am Dr. Dipen Shah, and after completion of our century video, from today I am starting with a new playlist of videos that we are going to call it as Fabulous 5. In Fabulous 5, we are going to discuss some of the most exclusive points for NEET and AIIMS exam. So better make a note of all the Fabulous 5 points that we are going to discuss. The topic that we are starting with is sexual reproduction in plants. So let us begin with Fabulous 5. The first point is about the tapetum. Now tapetum, this structure is the innermost layer of the anther, and tapetum has the important function that it is absorptive in nature. Since it is absorptive, it absorbs the nutrients from the middle layers and passes it to the pollen grains. That means it provides nourishment to the microspores or pollen grains. It is also secretory in nature. Now tapetum contains certain bodies. Remember the name of the bodies, that is known as Ubish bodies. These Ubish bodies have an important role, that it produces sporopollenin, which forms the pollen exine. Also, the tapetum forms pollen kit. Basically, pollen kit is an oily layer of secretion around the pollen grain. This is yellowish in color and it is composed of lipids and carotenoids. This pollen kit helps in entomophily, that is in insect pollination. So this we have discussed an important point about tapetum. Coming to the next point in Fabulous 5, that is about the pollen grain itself. The pollen grain, as mentioned, has the exine, which is composed of sporopollenin. This sporopollenin has no available enzyme which can be digesting the sporopollenin. That means the pollen exine is non-biodegradable, and hence pollen grains can be preserved, they can be fossilized, and study of pollen grains is possible. Also, pollen grains are stored under liquid nitrogen at temperature of minus 196 degrees Celsius. Also, pollen grains of certain plants produces allergies, and such allergies we call it as hay fever. This hay fever basically is produced by pollens of plants like carrot grass, which is known as Parthenium, other plants like Chenopodium, Amaranthus, and several other plants can also produce such pollen allergy. Also, in certain plants, the pollen grains are nutritious. For example, the rose plant, the magnolia plants, they produce pollens which can be used as pollen syrups and pollen tablets, and these are used by athletes, and also they are used for horses which are used in horse races. Coming to the next point of the Fabulous 5 category is about the female gametophyte. Now female gametophyte, as we are aware, is 7-celled and 8 nuclei, which is known as polygonum type because it was first discovered in polygonum plant. Apart from this, the central egg cell that is present in the egg apparatus, that is known as oosphere. So remember that the egg cell is known as oosphere. Also, lateral to the egg cell, there is presence of 2 other cells which are known as synergids. Remember, synergids are also known as the cooperative cell or the help cells. Synergids produces certain finger-like projections which are known as filiform apparatus. In fact, this filiform apparatus is the extension of the cell wall of synergids into the cytoplasm. These synergids have a very valuable function, that it guides the entry of pollen tube into the egg cell. So it guides it towards the micropyle, which is a very important function of the synergids. As the pollen tube enters, some of the synergids, they get degenerated before the entry, and one of them gets degenerated after the entry of the pollen tube. So that is an important point about the female gametophyte. Coming to the next point of Fabulous 5 is about the pollination. Remember, wind pollination, that is anemophily, is the primitive and the oldest type of pollination. Also, it is observed in gymnosperms and in monocots. Apart from this, a very special mechanism has been observed in Rafflesia flower. Remember, Rafflesia is one of the largest flower, and in that they have a fly trap mechanism wherein the flower produces foul odor which attracts carrion flies. So carrion flies helps in pollination of Rafflesia flower. Also remember that for seed and fruit dispersal, elephants help the Rafflesia flower. Also, a special mechanism is also shown by an orchid known as Ophrys speculum, wherein the Ophrys speculum attracts the male moth copla. The male moth copla gets attracted because Ophrys flower resembles to the female moth. So this is known as a sexual deceit, wherein when the male moth gets attracted, it performs pseudo copulation, and in that process it performs the process of pollination. So remember that Ophrys speculum performs sexual deceit for helping in the process of pollination by the moth copla. Apart from this, the last topic that we are discussing in Fabulous 5 is about adventative polyembryony, wherein the nucellus or the integument cells can directly develop into embryo, and that develops polyembryos, and this is known as adventative polyembryony. This is shown by certain plants like citrus, mango, lemon, opuntia, and several other varieties as well. So this is the polyembryony which is shown by these plants. So this we have discussed about Fabulous 5 points, wherein we discussed about tapetum, we discussed about the pollen grain, about the female gametophyte, about pollination mechanisms, and about polyembryony. Stay tuned for my further videos, and that's all from Dipenism.